"I can be crafty," said the little fox of the night, "and I can be brave, and I would die for him." And then the fox imagined that a voice in her head was saying, almost tenderly, "Then catch his dreams, child," as she awoke. The sun was the golden of the late afternoon, and it burnished the world as the fox stepped into the brush and made for the little temple, stopping only to devour a large frog she found at the edge of the stream, and to crunch it down, bones and all, in a couple of mouthfuls. Then she drank the cold, clear water of the mountain stream, lapping at it thirstily. When she came to the temple, the monk was chopping firewood for his brazier. Remaining a safe distance from the monk, for his axe blade was sharp, she said, clearly, as people talk, "May you dream only propitious dreams in the days to come, dreams of good omen and great fortune." The monk smiled at the fox. "I am grateful for your wishes," he said, "though it is not for me to know if my dream shall be of good fortune or otherwise." The fox stared at him for some time with her green fox eyes. "I shall not be far," she said at length, "should you need me." And when the young monk looked up again from his firewood, she was gone. Chapter 3. Far to the south and the west, in his house in Kyoto, the master of Yin Yang, the Onmyoji, burned a lamp at a small table, upon which he had placed a square of painted silk, and upon it a lacquer chest and a black wooden key. Arranged according to the 5 cardinal points of the compass were 5 small porcelain plates, upon 3 of which were powdered matter, upon 1 of which was a bead of liquid, and upon the last plate there was nothing at all. The Onmyoji was a rich man. He was a high official in the Bureau of Divination, and many sought his advice and his favours. The governors of many provinces were grateful to him, and believed that his influence and his fortune-telling had given them their fortunes or their high positions. He had the ear of the Chancellor and of the ministers of the right and the left. But he was not a happy man. He had a wife who lived in the northern wing of his house, and who ran his household judiciously and efficiently, and treated him in every way as a wife should treat a husband. He had a concubine who was barely 17, and who was very beautiful. Her skin was as pale as the palest plum blossoms. Her lips were as dark as plums. His wife and his concubine lived together under the same roof, and they did not quarrel. But the Onmyoji was not a happy man. He lived in what was widely said to be the 17th finest house in Kyoto. Spirits and demons of the air, Onii and Tengu alike, were ordered by him and would obey his orders. He could remember every detail of 2 of his previous lives. As a young man he had travelled to China to study, and he had returned with his hair prematurely grey, but with an unequalled knowledge of portents and omens. He was respected by those who were his superiors, feared by those who were his inferiors. But with all this, the Onmyoji was not happy. And this was because the Onmyoji was afraid. Ever since he could remember, ever since he was a tiny child, he had been afraid, and everything he learned, every scrap of power he obtained, he had gathered in the hope that it would drive away the fear. But the fear remained. It waited behind him, and in the heart of him. It was there when he slept, and there to greet him when he woke in the morning. It was there when he made love, and when he drank, and when he bathed. It was not a fear of death, for in his heart he suspected that death might be an escape from the fear, and there were days when he wondered if, by his arts, he were to kill every man, woman, and child in the world, that the fear would be gone. But he suspected the fear would still haunt him, even if he were alone. It was fear that drove him, and fear that pushed him into the darkness. The master of Yin Yang sought knowledge from the defilers of graves. He met with misshapen creatures in the twilight, and he danced their dances, and he partook of their feasts. On the outskirts of the city, where thieves and brigands and the unclean lived, the master of Yin Yang kept a dilapidated house, and in that house there were 3 women, one old, one young, and one who was neither young nor old. The women sold herbs and remedies to women who found themselves in unfortunate situations. It was whispered that unwary travellers who stopped in that house for the night were often never seen again. Be that as it may, no man knew of the Onmyoji's involvement with the 3 women, nor of his visits to the house on those nights when the moon was dark. In his head and in his heart, The Onmyoji was not an evil man. He was frightened, and the fear stole the joy from any moments of pride or happiness, and leached the pleasure from his life. One night, several weeks before the events previously related, when the moon was at its darkest, he had asked the three women in the dilapidated house the questions that troubled him most. The wind blew through the broken screens and howled in the rotting eaves. "How can I find peace?" he asked the oldest of the women. "There is peace in the grave," she told him, "and a momentary peace in the contemplation of a fine sunset." She was naked, and her breasts hung like empty bags upon her chest, and on her face she had painted the face of a demon. The Onmyoji scowled and tapped his fan into the palm of his hand impatiently. "Why do I have no peace?" he asked the youngest of the three women. "Because you are alive," she told him with her cold lips. The Onmyoji was most afraid of the youngest of the three women, for he suspected that she was not alive. She was beautiful, but it was a frozen beauty. If she touched him with her cold fingers, he shuddered. "Where can I find peace?" he demanded of the woman who was neither young nor old. She was not naked, but her robe was open, and down her chest ran 2 rows of breasts, like the breasts of a she-pig or a rat, her many nipples black and hard as so many lumps of charcoal. She sucked the air in through her teeth and held it in. Then, after too long a time, she exhaled. She said, "In the province of Mino, many, many long days of travel away from here, to the north and to the east, on the side of such and such a mountain, is a small temple. It is of so little importance that it has but one monk tending to it. He is afraid of nothing, and he has the peace you desire. Now, I can weave it so that when he dies you will gain his strength, and you will fear nothing. But once I have woven, you will have only until the next full of the moon to cause his death, and he must die without violence and without pain, or the weaving will fail." The Onmyoji grunted, satisfied. He fed her several small delicacies from his own hand, and stroked her hair, and told her that he was satisfied with this. The three women withdrew into another part of the tumble-down house, and when they returned again it was almost dawn, and the sky was beginning to lighten. They handed the Onmyoji a square of woven silk, pale as moonlight. On it was painted the Onmyoji, and the moon, and the young monk. The Onmyoji nodded, satisfied. He would have thanked them, but he knew that one must not thank creatures of their kind, so he placed their payment on the floor of their house and hurried home to be there before daybreak. Now, there are many ways to kill at a distance, but most of them, even if they do not involve direct violence, involve the infliction of pain. The master of Yin-Yang consulted his scrolls. Then he sent his demons to the mountain where the monk lived to obtain for him things that the monk had touched. That was where the fox had overheard them. And here and now the Onmyoji sat in front of the little table, with the lamp upon it, and the lacquer box, and the key. One by one he added a pinch of the substances in each of the little porcelain plates to the fire of the lamp, a pinch for each of the 5 elements, and the final pinch was from the last thing the demons had stolen from the monk. It was from the plate with nothing on it, which contained the scrap of the monk's shadow that the demons had stolen from him. With each pinch of powder the Onmyoji added to the flame, it burned higher and brighter, and when he added the final pinch of nothing, which was the monk's shadow, the flame burned so high that it filled the Onmyoji's chamber with light, and then it was gone, leaving the room in darkness. The Onmyoji kindled a light, and was pleased to observe that on the silk square that had covered the table there was an unpleasant stain, as if something dead had been lying over the face of the young monk. He observed this with satisfaction. He went to his bed and slept the night peacefully and without fear. He was, for that night,